Hey, the Philadelphia Eagles are taking on the Dallas Cowboys in an NFC East Showdown on the road at Jerry's World in Texas. I'm looking at FanDuel, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I'm looking at on my phone. Eagles at Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys are plus 3.5 in this NFC East Showdown. I'm taking that bet. I am taking the Dallas Cowboys points in this game at home in an NFC East title game where Dak Prescott and the Cowboys get up for the Philadelphia Eagles. Sign me up for the points in that one. Okay, that's at what? Plus 148. I think that's a pretty safe bet to get money on that one, right? Not that you're a betting person nor that I'm a betting person, but, we're betting people, right? So, again, this game, I think, is going to be a very interesting matchup. It's the game of the week on Fox. Kudos to the NFL for getting this one right. Dak Prescott and this offense for the Dallas Cowboys is playing as good a football as you could have in the NFL on the offensive side of the ball. And that's a shout out to, or kudos rather, to not only Dak Prescott for once again being a number one or a number five, number three, whatever, a top five ranked offense. It's paying kudos to, Brian Schottenheimer, who's done a pretty damn good job getting this team on the same page and building something over there. Now, he comes from an NFL family, and Marty Schottenheimer, who his father, who passed away in 21, great coach in the NFL. And you see a lot of similarities in terms of how they go about, hey, when you're in a position to go ahead and take points, take points. Take points, take points, take points. Points are at a premium in this league. You always have an opportunity to go get them. You go get them. So Schottenheimer's going to put up points on the board with this offense. Dak Prescott's going to move the ball pretty frequently, right? And again, yardage-wise, they're a top five ranked unit in the NFL. Dak Prescott has 21 touchdowns, 6 interceptions on the year. Also a rushing touchdown to add on top of it. And quite frankly, this offense is humming in Dallas. And, in Philadelphia, it's the opposite story. The offense is not necessarily humming. This is an offense that everybody looks at and says it's putrid, it stinks, because it usually does. It's very inconsistent, just to put it lightly. And right now we have a little bit of a strife with not only the whole team, but possibly the quarterback and the organization with there's a lot of noise coming out of Philadelphia right now. We already saw the Derek Gunn report that happened in the past, talking about how this potentially is Carson Wentz 0.2. We talked about that a while back before last year. It was a deja vu moment with Jalen Hurts and this organization. I'll put the card up in the top of this screen for you. You could take a look at that episode if you like. This offense in Philadelphia is not good. It's not consistent. And you look at the dichotomy between these two quarterbacks, and while Dak Prescott and this Cowboys offense shows up week after week after week, and you know exactly what you're getting from them on offense, when it comes to big games, playoff games, big-time moments, generally most people will say that the Cowboys fail to meet expectations because their history suggests that they do that over the past 30 years. While on the other hand, Jalen Hurts tends to rise to the occasion. And that's one of the main differences between both stories here as to why Philadelphia is 8-2 versus the Cowboys being 4-5-1 or 5-5-1, whatever their record is. So they just kicked the Raiders' teeth in, who stink, by the way. Again, this is going to be a matchup of not just a great offense in Dallas playing a really good defense to great defense in Philadelphia, which I believe is elite, but it's going to be a matchup of this Eagles offense going up against this Dallas Cowboys defense. And I think both units, while their team ranking suggests that they're not very good, I think they're misleading, and I think it's going to be a game that's going to be a lot closer than we think, and actually more of a shootout than we think and are going to be let on. And we're going to talk about some matchups and some of the key things in this game, in my opinion, in the later parts of the show. But before we do that, let me introduce you to the show. This is the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast. I'm your host, Asif Badi, and like you, I am a Birds fan who talks about the birds, only the birds, and nothing but the Philadelphia Eagles. So please do us a favor here, help us grow this channel organically by shooting this video a thumbs up, commenting your thoughts in the comment section below, and subscribing to the channel. Also, check us out on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star review, because in the end, it doesn't cost you a damn thing to go ahead and hit subscribe. And in this economy, ladies and gentlemen, I will never ask for anything other than free stuff here for sports content, right? Like, why would you want anything else other than free shit? So help a brother out, support the channel. But thank you for your support on the opposite side of the camera, on the opposite side of the airwaves. After that introduction, let me take a sip of this tea. Let's talk about matchup number one, ladies and gentlemen. We talked about the Dallas Cowboys offense against this Vic Fangio defense. That's what we're going to talk about. Again, I mentioned before, the Dallas Cowboys offense, yardage-wise, about as good as anybody you want in the NFL. Yardage-wise, the Vic Fangio defense, not necessarily the best. Now, they have been playing better, and the past two games, they've played the Packers and the Detroit Lions and have held them both to under 10 points each and held their yardage total to pretty damn low. Now, context is that it's inclement weather. They added Jalen Phillips to the mix, so it's a little bit more of a dynamic unit on the defensive side of the ball. But weather plays a role in all of defensive football, right? You're playing against the Dak Prescott offense in a dome in ideal conditions. Can they hold up the same way as they've done against the Detroit Lions, as they've done against the Green Bay Packers? That's yet to be seen. I lean more towards, hey, we're going to make life a little bit difficult for this Dallas Cowboys offense, because despite how good Dak has played all year, despite how consistent and as good as his Dallas Cowboys offense has been, they also have had moments where they've not looked so great. They've had moments where they had choppy performances. And I think this is one of those games. We saw it against the Cardinals, and we probably will see it against the Philadelphia Eagles. If you can put a hat on Dak Prescott and you can get them at the edge, attack their tackle positions, that's where you're going to be able to get home. Which brings me to matchup number two here. Can Dak Prescott and obviously Vic Fangio, can they offset each other? That's yet to be seen. And this kind of plays a role into the conversation here. The interior of the offensive line and the defensive lines for both Philadelphia and the Dallas Cowboys. On the interior of the defensive line for the Eagles, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Moro Ojomo, going up against the interior of the offensive line in Dallas with Cooper Beebe at center, Tyler Smith, and forgive me, I don't know the other guard's name. That's a lot closer of a matchup than I think people are giving it credit for. Tyler Smith is one hell of a football player. I think he was an All-Pro. I haven't looked up. I don't watch the Dallas Cowboys that intently, so forgive me, but I'm pretty sure he's an All-Pro type of player, Pro Bowl type of guy. Cooper Beebe's not a bad football player. He's been pretty damn good for the Cowboys. This offensive line for Dallas on the interior has been one of their stronger suits, and that's why they've had a running game with Javonte Williams, right? The interior of the Eagles, again, now that you have Jalen Carter in the mix with Moro Ojomo and Jordan Davis, you know, and it's starting to look a little bit more formidable and starting to look more in the line of what Howie and this organization has been trying to envision for these two players to look like. Jordan Davis is playing probably his best football of his career. Jalen Carter starting to get into form a little bit more, right? And adding Jalen Phillips to the lineup, into the mix here, just solidifies the rotation, just puts everybody in a better position, because now you have to account for a true star edge player. Nolan Smith coming back, which was a few weeks ago. Jalen Hunt benefiting. Brandon Graham is there. Josh Uche is there. It's just a good rotation on the defensive line. But I don't think you're going to beat Dallas on the interior for the most part. Most of the time, offensive linemen are going to have an advantage because they know it's snap count, they know the play, all that jazz. They're at home, they're on turf, all that, good stuff. It's the tackles. Can the Philadelphia Eagles beat the Cowboys on the edge? That's going to be the key. On the interior of the offensive line and defensive line, it's going to be a wash for the Philadelphia defensive line and the Cowboys offensive line. Flip that conversation where the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line versus the Dallas defensive line. Dallas has got some really good players now all of a sudden. They got Quinnen Williams over there. They got Kenny Clark on the interior, and they have Ozikazua over there. Forgive me if I didn't pronounce his name right. I just know he's a damn good football player. And plus, they got like Humphrey coming back. They have Overshawn coming back. Like they got some guys on the defensive side of the ball there that's starting to get healthier. They have some guys coming back who could pose some problems for the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line because they're not playing their best football. Lane Johnson is out with that Liz Frank injury. Cam Jurgens might play. We don't know yet. If he does, how compromised is he? And if it's not Cam Jurgens, it's Brett Toth, right? So we got a little bit of a situation here where that's more of a wash. You might even lean more towards Dallas in that matchup, right? But again, it's a matter of whether or not you can get pressure on the edges for the Dallas Cowboys. Now, I don't think they have, high quality edge guys. And I think that helps out Jalen Hurts, believe it or not, because if you're getting pressure up the interior, it's going to force Jalen to roll out a little bit more, which I think is what he's more comfortable doing because that's the type of player he is. And it bodes more into his strengths of trying to buy time with his legs and trying to beat the Cowboys with his wheels. So that's going to be more of the interesting matchup to me. If the interiors wash and cancel each other out on both sides of the ball, who's going to win on the edges? To me, I think the Eagles on the defensive side of the ball have the premier edge guy. They have the guys to go out and beat the tackles of the Cowboys. And the question is, can the Cowboys match that on their defensive line? I don't know. And with a playmaker like Jalen Hurts being more mobile than Dak Prescott, Dak's a little bit more of a stationary target as opposed to Jalen Hurts. I think that's a benefit for Philadelphia Eagles. Okay. The last thing that I'm going to talk about, or the last couple of things rather, is Jalen Hurts in this offense. Can they figure it out? I will say this, while their offense is really, really bad, I think people have been overstating just how poorly Jalen Hurts has been playing. I think when you look at the stats that Jalen Hurts has had, 16 touchdowns, 1 interception, damn near 2,000 yards throwing, it could be a lot worse in terms of counting numbers. But again, the offense just does look putrid for the most part. I mean, every time they come out and take the field, you look at it and you're just saying to yourself, well, damn, like you can't get anything going on this offensive output here. And rightfully so, when you see that, you look at the quarterback. That's what you should do. Most fans don't look at the quarterback; they look at the coaching staff. But you're the trigger man. You got to be playing better. But I found an interesting tweet a few days ago by Chase Sr., who does really good work covering the Philadelphia Eagles regarding Jalen Hurts' play. And again, numbers don't tell the whole story. Numbers do lie. There's other context that's attached to this. But I think for all the people who are looking at Jalen Hurts and are saying that he needs to be, better, that's one thing to say, and I agree with you. It's also another thing to suggest that the man deserves to be benched and that we're better off with another quarterback at the helm, that you're better off with a guy like Tanner McKee, or you're better off with getting somebody else behind center. Now, if you're replacing him with somebody obviously better than him, then yes, of course. Like people will say, like, yeah, can you imagine, Patrick Mahomes or Joe Burrow or Josh Allen behind this offense? Well, no shit. Those are the 4 best quarterbacks in fucking football. Lamar Jackson, same thing. the best fucking quarterbacks in football, right? Like you're not going out on a limb suggesting that, hey, you put those guys with these weapons, they're gonna be better. I mean, come on, like no one is suggesting that those four guys are somehow worse than Jalen Hurts. Okay, look, all offseason I talked about Jalen Hurts being a top 5 quarterback, that he's had the resume to suggest that. He still does. Now, he's not playing like it. Matt Stafford's clearly outplaying that guy, and that guy might win fucking MVP. 27 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, a freaking ridiculous number that he's playing at. Neither here nor there. So if you want to say that, hey, if you were wrong for saying he's a top 5 guy, I can't argue with you at the moment. I certainly can't say that Jalen Hurts has been a top 5 quarterback in the NFL despite the resume, because while the resume does matter, you have to have numbers, okay? But like I mentioned before, there are numbers here that Chase Sr. brought to light that I think are interesting to look at just to have that conversation regarding Jalen Hurts in this game. For the radio audience, it's an X account post, and this is what it reads. Jalen Hurts isn't the sole reason the offense is struggling. He's having a pretty good season statistically. Now, again, like I said, I do believe to a degree that stats lie, just to give that context, right? But you can't just poo-poo them here, okay? Because I think these numbers, while we look at Jalen and we are frustrated with a lot of the times with how the offense looks and how it flows sometimes, because it's not a very flowing offense, it's because he's not a flowing player. But that's neither here nor there. We have that conversation for another day. Yards per attempt. Jalen Hurts is 7.4 yards per attempt. That's 11th in the NFL. Air yards per attempt, I don't really give a shit about that stat. It just shows that he's throwing the ball down the field a little bit more. 8.8 yards per attempt, 6th in the NFL. A true passer rating of 112.5, that's 5th in the NFL. QBR, 66.6, that is not a great number to have. We don't like the Devils number, but that's 8th in the NFL. True completion percentage, I don't know what the hell that means, but 73.8 is 10th in the NFL. His deep ball completion is 5th in the NFL at 47.4. Pressured completion, meaning throws under pressure, 64.3. It's the best in the NFL. So basically, against the blitz, Jalen Hurts is going to gut you. As John Gruden would say, he's going to gut you. I'll tell you what, man, that guy's going to gut you. I digress. Completion percentage against man, 67%. That's 4th in the NFL. Completion percentage against zone, 12th in the NFL at 70.4. Passer rating in man is 27.2, which is 3rd. And against the zone, it's 12th in the NFL, where his passer rating is 99.2. Again, those are just numbers that Chase Sr. brought to light. Now, I think a lot of those numbers can be a little faulty because completion percentage to me has always been an overrated stat. You could be 21 of 25, but if a majority of your throws are checkdowns, then or under 10 yards throwing, you're going to have a high completion percentage, right? Like I think, there's context to that. That's why when people tell me that like, oh, you got to be able to complete 65% of your passes, I'm just like, like is that really that big of a deal? I don't think so. I think, being more diligent with the football, like your touchdown to interceptions, I think that's a more important stat. Like I think that just shows better decision making and good decision making, right? And I think Jalen Hurts is pretty good at that. I've called him a lot of times in the past one of the best decision makers, if not the best decision maker in football in terms of turning the ball over. He doesn't do it very often, and in this game, I think that's going to be important. Will Jalen Hurts not turn the ball over? You're going to say, yes, he won't turn the ball over because that's a guarantee. And in ideal weather, in a dome, optimal conditions against the defense. Now, again, it might be better than what we're leading on because of the acquisitions, but all year, they haven't been the best defense. Can this offense get churning again? Possible. They have played over the past 4 games 2 of the top 10 defenses in the NFL in Detroit and the Packers, but we've seen them prior to those 2 games play the Vikings and the Giants, who, the Vikings have a good defensive unit. The Giants have an okay defensive unit just based on some of the names in the front seven and the talent that they got there, right? They might be struggling teams, but, decent units. Jalen Hurts played very well. He had a perfect passer rating, as we all know, against the Vikings. And then against the Giants without A.J. Brown, it was the most flowing offense that we saw all year, right? So playing against the Packers and inclement weather and Detroit in inclement weather and their top 10 defenses, the offense is obviously not going to look very good. Okay. So I think this is going to be a little bit of a bounce back game for Jalen Hurts in this offense. I think they get on track a little bit. They're going to be able to put up some points against this defense. And when you're in a shootout, this brings me to my final point. When you're in a shootout, comes down to a couple of guys. It comes down to your kickers for the anticlimactic key point in the game. Brandon Aubrey versus Jake Elliott. Now, I love Jake Elliott. That's our guy. One of the best kickers in the NFL. One of the most clutch kickers in the NFL. Big game kicker is what he is, right? I've never seen a leg like Brandon Aubrey, though. I just haven't. That guy can kick from 70 yards and it'd still be good. With ease, by the way. Ease. It might be a bigger leg than Sebastian Janikowski. Okay, like that guy's leg. Brandon, do you realize with the new NFL kickoff rules, teams are able to start at either the 25-yard line or the 35-yard line. They just got to get like 5 or 6 yards for them potentially to be in field goal range. That's how big this guy's freaking leg is. Being at the 50 for the Dallas Cowboys, you have confidence that you're going to get 3 points. That's a massive, massive advantage for the Dallas Cowboys. And Jake Elliott's got a big leg. He does not have that kind of leg, despite optimal conditions. He ain't kicking at 70 yards. That's not his game. Brandon Aubrey does that in his sleep. Does that with ease. So again, if it's a shootout and it comes down to a game of kicking where the Dallas Cowboys have a drive and they need 1 first down only to be in field goal range, that's a damn problem. So the Philadelphia Eagles, you better find a way to not keep this close. You better make me wrong about picking the spread, picking the points for Dallas in this game. 3.5 points, I think, seems pretty generous. I would take that bet. And with Brandon Aubrey's leg, it's very, very possible that this game could come down to the last possession, and he's as money as anybody in the NFL. Which now brings me to my predictions here. Again, like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if the Dallas Cowboys go out and win this football game. There's a lot on their side right now. And quite frankly, you played the Packers, you played the Lions, you're feeling pretty good about yourself, right? Might be a game that the Eagles look a little past the opponent here. And they've always played down to their opponents this season and play up to competition. But I'm still going to choose the Philadelphia Eagles because, again, they are 8-2. It's as good of a bet as anybody in the NFL. And when the Philadelphia Eagles win the turnover battle, they're 40-2 under the Nick Sirianni era. And I'm pretty damn confident they're going to win the turnover battle in this football game. So I'm picking the Philadelphia Eagles to win 27-24. I think it comes down to, Jake Elliott making the kick and them having an opportunity, but ultimately Vic Fangio gets the stop that you need, right? So 27-24, Philadelphia Eagles win this football game. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I think it's going to be a really, really good game. Game of the week, like we mentioned at the top of the show on Fox. They got it right once again. They just do a good job scheduling fucking football games is what they do. But again, tight ball game is what it's going to be because it's always a tight football game with the Philadelphia Eagles. And a little bit of a wake-up call here for the Philadelphia Eagles offense. When everybody seems to question Jalen Hurts, that's usually when he comes out and plays some of his best football. I think he's going to play a good game in ideal conditions against Dallas, against a defense that can be had, right? And he's confident against this team. I think he's going to have a good game. And all of a sudden, this offense will start to hum again a little bit. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, like I mentioned before. And we will catch you here next time for the game reaction of the Dallas Cowboys versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Fly, Eagles, fly, baby. Go Birds.
Hey. Thank you so much for watching the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast. If you want to continue to support the channel, please hit the like and subscribe button down below. Also, check us out on Instagram and TikTok at Riding the Bench Eagles Pod. We're also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, you name it, we're on there. Thank you so much for listening, and please join us next time here at the Riding the Bench Eagles Podcast.